Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I had gotten quite a few requests to test out the latest scenery from Aerosoft, Mega Airport Lisbon V2. I actually owned the V1 version of the scenery, and I was actually fairly happy with it. Although, admittedly, Portugal was never a #1 destination for me in the simulator. But it's a destination that I always enjoyed, nevertheless. So I was really excited when the first previews of V2 were first debuted. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, ADX was the first news site to bring those previews to light, and that was well over a year ago. The previews were only made available via the Portuguese forum on Aerosoft. So if you were not in the Portuguese forum, then you never knew about it. So luckily a reader tipped us off to that, and it was actually quite exciting. It was actually about a year and a half ago now, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like sometime back in February of last year when the first preview surfaced, and then they didn't start to show anything officially until many months after. So now it's released, and I've been excited to get my hands on it. I just haven't had the time because I'm always in the process of trying to catch up. I've got a lot of reviews and things going on. So earlier today I was actually testing out the Rome Fiumicino scenery that was rejected by Aerosoft recently. And on a visual standpoint, I found that the scenery is actually pretty much similar to FS9. It doesn't really take much advantage of the new FSX features or prepared features in terms of like specular mapping and stuff like that. But as far as the representation, it looked just fine to me, and it performed even better. With the Airbus Extended, I had frames in the 50s, day and night. So I can't say too much about it, but I think it looks promising that the scenery will be released via some other outlet in the future. There's still a number of things, though, that I did note that will need to be fixed, but it's definitely workable and an enjoyable destination. So I think there's still some hope left for that. Okay, so here we are in Lisbon, and as I do the initial pan around, one of the things I already notice is the terrain is still pretty funky looking in the background. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that if there's maybe a compatibility issue with FTX Global Vector and OpenLC Europe, perhaps. I use FS Global 2010, and I'm pretty sure every scenery developer by now should have their product compatible with FS Global. I would like to think so. But nevertheless, I am seeing some really ugly terrain anomalies. So let's go ahead and take off. I already saw in the beginning that there were a few people that had concerns about frame rates or about performance. So hopefully this will help you as well. Just keep in mind that because I am running the Open Broadcaster software on the same PC that I use for the simulator, a lot of my performance is being extracted for use of the broadcasting software. So just keep that in mind. I'm already just taking a look at some of the comments. And Alex is saying that Matthias Cox said that the frames are very low. Well, for him, they very well could have been. Right now, I'm noticing frames in the 40s, and at some point, I'll switch over to the Aerosoft Airbus just to see what the frames are with that aircraft. But I know that Cornell, the developer, has still been working on the scenery, so it's quite possible that whatever experience Matthias had very well could have been worked out by now. But that's just an assumption. But right now we can see that I'm sorry, we're not using Rome now, but anyway, I may or may not do a quick look at Rome just to give you an idea, but my frames there were in the 50s. So like I said, it could have just been that the scenery had been optimized after those tests. So let's go ahead and take off and have a look around the area. I'm getting one from CatZoom saying I should take the terrain mesh down to 19. As a matter of fact, let me just pause the sim here and take a look at where my terrain mesh is now. me just a second here. My terrain mesh currently, the mesh is at 5. So you're saying I should take it down to 19. 19's pretty far. I usually don't sim at 19. But that's just the resolution of the mesh. I don't think that's going to change the height of anything. But I'll take your advice. I just moved it down tonight, and we'll see if that fixes anything, Cat Zoom. And Happy Metal, yes, to echo what Happy Metal has just said, this is prepared V2. So naturally, if you're using FSX, you very well could possibly have a different experience than what I have. Something to keep in mind. Just waiting for 19 to load. Let's pan around. All right, so now we're at 19, and there's no difference. Yeah, there's no difference at all. Right around in here, it's just really funky. Right outside the airport. It's not the airport itself. It looks like an area outside the airport. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my settings back up to 5 meters on my mesh resolution. And texture resolution's at 30. I don't think I need to change anything else there. So right now I'm not too concerned about performance. I mean, the performance right now is between 40s and 50s. I think that's average for a mega airport in FSX, or prepared for that matter. If it's optimized well anyway. Just going to give it one more moment to load. Cat Zoom says, "Sorry guys, that's okay. I mean, I'm always happy to take your advice and try anything that you guys have too. I won't pretend to know everything. So I mean, if there's something that you guys notice, I'll be more than happy to try it out." Now, what I will say that I'm noticing is some slight micro stutters. I am noticing micro stutters. Again, the frames are in the 40s actually, not really hitting the 50s. We're in the 40s, but there are some micro stutters here. But this area slightly outside the airport is looking really, I don't know, it looks pretty odd, the terrain. Now it looks like the area outside the airport is open land class Europe. That's what it looks like. So I know that there were some initial complaints that a lot of people really wanted to have the areas immediately outside of the airfield to be covered in a third-party manner with buildings and towns and so forth. And a lot of people were not pleased that that didn't happen. I think that Open Land Class Europe did a pretty good enough job covering that. Just taking a look at the areas outside the airport. So again, this is all covered by OpenLC Europe by Orbix. So I think if you have that, I think that's probably the best you're going to get in terms of having some sort of representation of the nearby towns. But yeah, I'm noticing micro stutters. And with certain sceneries, no matter how good the scenery is in terms of performance, if it's got micro stutters, it might as well just have poor frame rates, because what's the point of getting high frames if you're going to get the micro stutters? So, I mean, maybe you guys are noticing it on your end, maybe not. Perhaps it's not too big a deal, but it is noticeable, at least on my end. One of the things I'll note that I'm not too big of a fan of is when it comes to these photo terrain with 2D parking lot cars. This is kind of a no-no for me. I really don't like when I see this sort of thing. Again, as a person who does scenery reviews, this is just one of the things that I typically tend to point out. I'm not a fan of the flat parking lots. That should have all been scrubbed out and probably just hand done with 3D cars, or at least an option in an add-on manager to add 3D cars. When I see this, it evokes a feeling of cheapness, and it gives me a feeling that was sort of rushed. So again, as someone who has seen many different sceneries over the years, that's one of the things that I point out that I like to see done better. So if it comes off as nitpicking, then that's a good thing. That means that the scenery is not bad. I like that they put an Airbus inside the hangar there. I think that was a nice touch. And very nice photoreal texture application on the hangar itself. Looks like an A330 in there. Nice touch. I like that. Let's mosey on over to the new terminal here. Need to get pretty close to those textures to see how well it was laid out. One thing I'll notice that I'm pretty impressed with is I like how they put the lights on the building. If you guys will notice these lights up here, I like that they didn't just go with a 2D image of that. They actually put the 3D objects on there. And when we go to the night shots, I'll look forward to seeing how how well they're lit up and how they cast the light onto the ramp areas. But as far as texturing goes, I think it looks very nice. Take a look at some of your comments. Let's see. And Kadzum says, honestly, I've been having some strange spikes with this scenery and found tuning the mesh resolution down improves those spikes. Well, obviously, whenever you start taking those sliders a little bit more to the left, you'll start to see better performance. I think that's just a general rule of thumb. And then he says, of course, Autogen destroys his frame rates, which, again, the more to the left you drag the sliders, the better the performance you'll get. And Alex is pointing out that it looks like similar issues to the Bergen stream that we did in terms of, I guess, anomalies near airports. Of course, in Bergen, that was a default airport, so I imagine those issues will be worked out with third-party scenery. Of course, there wasn't any major issues in Bergen. It was just that there was a funky-looking little lake that was in the that sort of worked its way onto the airport apron and went up in elevation with sort of one of those water walls, which was really odd. But again, Open Land Class Europe was just released, so I imagine we'll be seeing quite a few updates as time goes on. Finally come across some 3D cars here, sort of placed over the photo image. A lot of photoreal textures here. Not very high quality resolution photo textures, but I don't necessarily think you need them to be, given the fact that these buildings are sort of in a remote area of the airport. I don't think anyone's going to be parking back here. I doubt it. Old hangar back here. Another negative thing about the airport is I'm not noticing any perimeter fencing around the airport. So that's also usually a negative as well for me. That's something I'll typically tend to dock points on, is when the perimeter fence isn't at it. Nice to see the corporate building there with the building logo, the airline logo. Ooh, these micro stutters are really funky. We are getting some pretty funky micro stutters here. Some fairly nice ground imagery on the land side of the airport. Again, though, I'm not very pleased with the parking lot. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that I'm displeased with the representation of the parking lot. There should have been 3D. There should have been an option in an add-on manager to add 3D cars. And I know that in Spain and in Portugal and a lot of the Mediterranean areas of Europe, you do see these carports over airport car parks, basically to shield your cars from the sun. And I've noticed a lot of developers, they actually go through the trouble of making those objects in 3D with cars underneath them. Whenever I look at photo imagery like this, it sort of turns me off. I'm more or less left with the thought that, well, this area could have been done better. But I mean, as far as developments go, obviously there's always something that could be done better, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I know for many flight simmers, because you're not parking your airplane in the parking lot, this probably doesn't matter. Very interesting the way the terrain rolls up to the... I don't think it's an issue with the terrain. I think it's an issue with the imagery that's on the terrain. In other words, instead of seeing these, what are they, tennis courts and houses and stuff rolling up those hills, maybe they should have just been areas covered with greenery. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming this is sort of photo terrain here, so the way it's rolling up the hill doesn't look very nice at all. So depending on what your third-party add-ons on will probably depend on what visual representation you'll have here. And I don't know if this is part of Open Land class or if this is part of the photo scenery for the airport. I'm not really sure. So I'll just echo again, the third-party scenery that I have here is FTX Global 2010. The next layer is FTX Global. On top of that is Global Vector, and then OpenLC Europe. So, and then of course the airport. So I'm not really sure if it's any of those add-ons that are causing these really, really odd terrain anomalies. But it looks like a lot of this is photo terrain provided by the developers. That's what it looks like. Because OpenLC doesn't really come with a lot of photo terrain like that. It's mostly hand-designed terrain that comes with it, with a few areas that have photo terrain, like Mount Vesuvius in Italy. Taking a look at the ground textures look like they came from something more of a photoreal standard as opposed to being hand-drawn and applied. So I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing. I guess it's a good thing to a sense that you get a more realistic representation of what the ground actually looks like, what the situation is on the ground. But probably the downside would be that you do lack a bit of crispness of the ground textures. They don't look very crispy. There's almost like a slight blur. Again, not to say that they look bad, but that's sort of the trade-off I think you go with. From what it's worth, from the virtual cockpit of your aircraft, it'll probably look pretty good, I would think. I mean, you have areas where lines used to be because of the previous terminal positioning. And you can see where they've pulled out a lot of those old lines and added new lines in. So, for the most part, at least you get a more realistic representation. So that's not a bad thing. I'll try to land this thing here and try to get a much closer look at the ground textures. Again, frame rates seem to be maintaining in the 30s and 40s, but not without micro stutters. So just taking a look at the ground now, I guess when you look up close like that, it looks pretty crisp. Looks pretty good. I guess it's when you only get a little bit higher up does it start to blur out a little bit. But M, who's watching, says he can't wait to get it. That's a good thing. Pilot 777, hello, welcome aboard. And Kadzum says he loaded stock FSX with Lisbon and had some strange issues. He doesn't think it's Open Land class. So maybe perhaps it's an issue with the airport itself. Not really sure on that. That's sort of an odd one. Again, the frame rates are pretty average, but there are micro stutters, and there have been a few complaints regarding performance, so possibly some optimizations are needed. Again, I really like the lights up here. That sort of stands out to me a bit. And the quality of the textures are good as well. There's nothing to complain about. I mean, quite naturally, it's not flight beam quality, but we don't expect it to be, do we? What we want is a nice representation of the airport in its current real-world state, and that's exactly what we've gotten. And so to that end, I think it looks rather impressive. Again, obviously there are some areas that could be improved, which I've already noted. But that said, I think the quality is very good. And of course some glass jet bridges with specular mapping as well. I don't know if you guys have noticed that at all, but I can see it's a bit subtle, but definitely noticeable. Oh, those micro stutters are tough. I mean, I can imagine only how bad it would be if I threw in the AI traffic, which has all been turned off for now. I have to say though, they've made quite an improvement over the quality appearance of the airport. Because I have to be honest, Portugal was one of the ugliest looking airports in the world, in my opinion. It wasn't a very attractive looking airport. So it definitely has some architectural splendor to it, something it certainly lacked in the past. And some great attention to detail to the portions of the terminal that are still remnants of the past. It's quite a nice touch. The roof textures are looking very nice as well. Looks like there was some effort put in the roof textures. I can see that slight specular mapping on the glass on the jet bridges there. And some specular mapping on the GSE here too. You can see some sort of that reflection there, if you can see that. So as far as the windows goes, I want to assume that they went with some sort of, I don't know how the windows were developed. I'm not sure if they were hand drawn or if it's a combination of hand drawing and photoreal application. I'm not really sure. I will say this: I think it probably would have looked better if they had high resolution photos, but naturally I know that can be difficult to get. So with that said, I am sure they did the best they could with the data that they had. And the texture depth on the I'm not quite sure what I'd call these beams here, these wooden beams that appear to be holding up the terminal. But that was well done. The depth and the textures there is pretty nice too. Speedbird 197's on board. Welcome. Michael is on board. Michael, welcome aboard as well. Adi is on board. Welcome, welcome. Adi says chat isn't working in Chrome. I'm actually using Chrome to read your comments, so it's working for me, and Alex says it works as well, and the same thing with Speedbird, so it might be an issue on your end, Adi. And Adi, of course, it's good to have you aboard. I know things are a little bit shaky in your neck of the woods, so glad you can take a break of the reality that's taking place in your part of the world and can take part in the love of flight simulation, so glad you're here as well. And Adi, also remember, I think you're an admin on the channel as well, so if you happen to notice anything funky, you know what to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and spin back around here. Again, I guess if you look at some of these ground textures up close, if you look at them up close, they look pretty crisp. I mean, you can see sort of the pebbles and the tarmac. But the second we get airborne above it, it starts to look a little blurrish. Again, from the virtual cockpit of an A320 or 737 or something like that, I don't think it'll be as noticeable. I don't think it'll be as bothersome. That's probably just me nitpicking. But I think the ground textures are just fine. I only say that to say that it's not as crisp as I've seen in some other sceneries, and that's all. I don't know much about the developers and what their history is with scenery development. I don't know if this is their first attempt at an airport project or anything like that. But overall, I think they've done a very, very decent job. So far, my biggest concern is with the micro stutters. An update, in my opinion, is definitely needed. If you take a look at my computer specifications underneath the screen, or the, I don't know what you want to call it, the video window, the specs are pretty high, and in similar sized and larger airports, I really don't get much on micro stutters. So I think there's some optimizations that might be needed, because if I see them on my system, then quite naturally I can only imagine that many of you are seeing them even more so. Taking a look at some of these roof textures here. Now, I'm not sure what this interesting looking building is. Can I assume that this is like a bus depot for boarding passengers to remote gates? Ouch! Oh, that hurt. Can I assume that's what that is? Actually, I want to get a little bit closer to some of these other terminal objects also. Looks like in this little section straight ahead at 12 o'clock, not 12 o'clock of the helicopter, but 12 o'clock of the eye point, some better, it looks like they've added some actual photorealistic windows there. That's what it looks like to me anyway. And give me 1 second, I have to reply to a quick email here. About beta testing another project. Give me just 1 second. Okay. Alright, here we go. Let's get airborne again. So I think with the airport here, some areas are better than others. Just looking at the texture of whatever this part of the airport is, I'm not sure what it is, but it's dark. I'm looking at just black. Like, what's going on here? Is this supposed to be glass? What is that? What's happening in here? So what I'm noticing from this perspective is just something that could have been done better. I'm not sure if it was a photoreal application or what the case is, but just looking at that, I'm a bit concerned about why that's lacking so much detail, especially in an area that's so close to an active gate. I can understand if this was like the old hangar on the other side of the airport where you're likely not going to fly to, but when it's next to an active gate, and if you happen to be sitting in the right seat, which few of us actually fly from, but nevertheless, if you do, and you happen to look at that window, you're just going to see sort of like a dark black building and wonder, okay, what's up with that? So it just looks a little bit odd. And taking a look at some of the comments here. Calzoom, I'm sorry, I was saying cat zoom, excuse me. Calzoom saying I have a very similar system to you and see exactly the same. Thanks for doing this. Absolutely. My pleasure. It's the whole point. And Cal also notes that he's been posting support topics on the Aerosoft forum. So fingers crossed that they will work on optimizing it. Speedbird says, I have a few questions. Does the scenery have volumetric grass, ground traffic, bus car, etc.? And finally, how is the scenery merging with open land class? Well, Speedbird, if it does have car traffic, I'd have to assume that it would be AES light, and Oliver Pabst, who's basically stated his excuses for not implementing AES in P3D numerous times. So if it does have car traffic, it won't be in P3D. That's a tongue twister. So I would say check the product page for the feature list. Let's head over to some of the grass and see if there's volumetric grass here. And I'm going to say nope. It doesn't look like there's any volumetric grass. Let's find another grass area for you, Speedbird. Oh god, those microstutters are driving me crazy. I'm assuming these areas are probably about the same. I'm not seeing any. No, there's none there. Nope. I'm going to assume, Speedbird, that no, there is no volumetric grass. Not unless there's an error in my installation. But certainly not that I'm seeing. Eye point is going through the grass. No. Not that I'm seeing. Woo! Slow down, puppy. Oh. There we go. Okay. Looks like some more photoreal applications there on that building. And one of the things that I've been known to scold certain developers on is getting lazy when you hit the the land side of an airport project. And since my scolding, I have seen numerous developers really put a great level of detail and effort into those areas. I know a lot of people might turn around and say, well, it's not important to me because I'm not driving around in a parking lot. I guess my whole position on that has been, when you create a project, do it thoroughly. A parking lot is a part of an airport, so it should look as such. In my opinion, it just comes all the way down to putting pride in one's work and really releasing a complete project. And besides that, as long as it's able to be done in an effort or in a manner that does not affect performance, then why not? So that's sort of my whole take on that. So when it comes to the areas here, I'm less than pleased. I was actually more impressed with Aerosoft Dublin. I think they did a really good job on the land side of the airport there, as noted in my ADX First Look article. So not as impressed here, but again, for many of you, it's probably not going to make a very big deal. And plenty of ramp clutter and ground service equipment. And just take another look at your comments here. And Cal says that there is AES light with some nice ground movement, so that'll be in reference to FSX. And I think Adi was referring to the other building with the darkness. He says it could be too much ambient occlusion. The opacity was too strong, causing it to look dark. So yeah, that very well could be the case. Again, probably not a big deal for many of you, but again, when it comes to reviewing a scenery, I have to point out things like this for thoroughness. Again, I am not happy with the fact that there are no airport perimeter fences. So anybody can just wander right onto the runway here. Oh, wait a minute, I do see a fence here. Hang on. What is this? There is a fence there. Boy, that's light. You can hardly even see that. There is a fence. But I don't think this fence covers the entire airport. Let's follow the fence, shall we? Many of you are like, I don't care about a damn fence. I actually care. I point out little things like this. Let's just follow this fence and see if it goes all the way around the perimeter. I don't think it does. Let's see. We're still going around. It's still there. Boy, that fence is awfully light. If the fence is going to be that light, there's probably no point in even putting it in, to be honest. Okay, so I guess the fence is going to terminate into this wall. At least it's there, though, so I can't complain about that. So the fence meets the wall. I still don't think it covers the whole airport. I really don't. Let's see. Okay, we go around the parking lot, around these buildings. See, now the fence should have caught up somewhere in here, but there's no fence. So these parking lots and everything just runs right onto the airport. That's what it looks like. Here you can see a shadow of where a fence is probably supposed to be. I'm not really sure. But let's go over here. Is that really the control tower? That's it, huh? It's been a couple of years since I used the older version of Lisbon, so I've sort of forgotten the way the airport looks. All right, where's my fence? Where's the fence? Where's the fence? Where's the fence? Where's the fence? Oh, there it is. All right. Well, it covers much of the airport, so I guess I have to stand corrected about the fence. I have to say I was wrong. Ooh. There is a fence there. Okay. God, I can barely see it, but it's there. So there are some areas that it doesn't seem to cover, like around where those areas are and behind the terminal, but I guess that's not a big deal. But no, they actually did go to the trouble of putting a fence in, so I do stand corrected. Well done, lads. There is a fence. No volumetric glass. Look, there's your volumetric grass. What was that? Wait, let's turn around. What was that? That was some kind of like random plant just like sitting there. What is that? It's just like a random plant just sitting there. There's the Speedbird. There's your one piece of volumetric. It's just a random plant here. I guess looking at the shadow, maybe it was supposed to be, maybe there's a bigger tree there. I don't know, but there's a little tree. It's a tree growing all alone, all by itself. All right. Anyway, let's go back over here. Go super fast, like a race car. Well, we can see the frames are still, well, the frames are bouncing around quite a bit, to be honest, but it's the micro stutters that are killing me. Alright, so here we have the satellite gates, if you want to call it that, or remote gates. Have an engine test area here. Again, these ground textures are really just photoreal, kind of cleaned up. Oh, those stutters are crazy. I think we will all agree right now that an update is needed to optimize performance. I don't know if anyone's going to disagree with me on that, but if you do, please feel free to enlighten me. Nice little roundabout. Ah! Okay. Well, it's nice to see these guys working. Let's see, let's try to back up from it and then go forward. Let's see how it works in real time. I imagine AES would correct this for the FSX version. Let's see if we can just back up like an airplane. That's easier said than done with a helicopter. Let's see, back away from the stand. Actually, you know what? Let's go into the virtual cockpit. That's probably easier. There we go. Ugh. Okay, now let's try to back away from it. This is going to be kind of hard. Hang on. Backing away, we're backing away. Wait, dude, back away. No, it looks like it's just blinking the word stand. Maybe it doesn't work. Does anyone see it moving? I'm trying to back away from it. Like as if I were getting a pushback. But no, it didn't. It just disappeared, didn't it? Wait, let's go forward again. Alright, let's see. Is it gonna navigate me in? No, it just appears and disappears. So that doesn't really work. Alright, well, no worries. Oh, those bloody microstutters. Oh, let me just plop down real quick and take a look at your comments. I have to always remember to do that. I've noticed a lot of streamers don't really take too much time. They just look at the random odd comment, but I always try to make sure I take a moment to get the feedback, especially if I'm missing something. Boosh! Let's see. Yun says, DeAndre, please nitpick. Please, don't be nice on the reviews. I don't like reviews which try to avoid mentioning bad things. Please nitpick everything. Nadies is laughing. Captain Gumbo says, yep, thank God for the fence. And Speedbird is noticing the obvious and stating it. There are some serious mesh problems. Let's see. Speedbird says, you think it's a heavy autogen killing my frame rate? Well, here's the thing, Speedbird. It's not the frame rate that's getting killed. The frame rate's still in the 40s. I mean, I think that's average. The issue is the micro stutters, but putting it into comparison with, say, for example, FS Dream Team Zurich, which I'm happy to go to now to show you the difference. I can go there now, and you're not going to see micro stutters. I do understand that Lisbon isn't an area that's heavily populated with autogen, but I'm just trying to think of another airport that has a lot of autogen around it that doesn't give me performance issues. Los Angeles from FS Dream Team. I live in LA, so I know how populated the area, the city is that surrounds the airport on all ends with the except the west, which of course is the ocean. And I get frame rates in the 50s at FSDT LAX, and that's a huge airport surrounded by a lot of autogen. So I shudder to try to make the excuse because there are other airports out there. The only other airport where I tend to get stutter issues is with Flightbeam San Francisco, and Mira's in the process of coming out with a whole new version of that. So, and I think, and the reason why I have the issues with San Francisco is because of FTX Northern California. Before that, I got really good frame rates, but with the NCA, it starts to take a pretty heavy hit with the memory, and I OOM'd out there a couple times. So I think that's part of it, and I know that Mira's working on that with the new version, so I'm not going to pick on that much, not right now. I guess this is like a cargo warehouse is over here. More of these, what are these soccer fields? That's what they are. They're football fields. I'm assuming this is all part of the photo terrain. In fact, let's go to high elevation now, and just let's see if we can find the seam or where the photo terrain ends for the airport coverage area and where open land class Europe begins. Let's just try to sort that real quick. because I think this whole area with these autogen buildings, I think this is part of the scenery. So for those that were complaining that the city scenery area wasn't added, it looks like it was, because I don't think any of this is part of open land class. In fact, now I can tell you for a fact that it's not. Speedbird says, now that Lisbon is finished, oh, I'm sorry, that was Captain Gumbo, saying now that Lisbon is finished, they could support the German airports team to finish the effing EDDF, the Frankfurt. Well, now FS Dream Team has Frankfurt in their current poll, so I mean, God knows. But I did see some complaints that people are getting annoyed that everyone's putting Frankfurt in their polls. Yeah, I can understand that feeling. Obviously, a lot of people want a quality Frankfurt, and obviously with the screenshots that we've seen so far, the development previews we've seen so far of the Gap version, I think a lot of us are far less than impressed. Yeah, and I notice you're pointing out Flight Tampa Dubai. Flight Tampa Dubai and Flight Tampa Hong Kong runs like a dream, so no, I don't have any issues. Flight Tampa's been around for a very long time. Among the best. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of the bigger picture. In fact, you can see the seam right here. This is Open Land Class Europe on the left side of the screen, and splitting right down the middle, you can see where the third-party scenery airport, where it meets. It actually blends in very well from this altitude. It blends in perfectly from this altitude, but once you get down on top of it, it looks like shit. I think the issue is that because there is sort of a plateau and the airport is somewhat elevated, they had to go in and create custom mesh. So I think the mesh is fine. I think the problem is the photo scenery is not properly applied onto the photo mesh. So you're getting these football fields that are hanging off the side of a cliff, and house 3D or 2D house images that are going up cliffs and stuff like that. I think that's the problem. Because looking at it from the air now, from this perspective, and I'll just hit the pause button real quick so we can, just in case anyone has a slow internet connection, when you look at a static image, it sort of comes in better in terms of the resolution. So just looking at it here, you can see that it blends in very well with OpenLC Europe. And the terrain elevations actually look correct. They look pretty good from here. It's only when you get down closer do you realize everything looks like crap. So I guess the bottom line will be how it looks for you on approach and departure, but I don't really know how that can be improved. I think it's a combination of the photo scenery and the way the application is put on. Speedbird says he's waiting for a new Charles de Gaulle. Yeah, you're gonna be waiting for a long time. To be honest, I don't think I want Simwings to be the ones to do the next Charles de Gaulle. I would prefer to see Flightbeam or Flight Tampa or someone else do it. And the reason why I say that is because I don't want anybody getting lazy on the terrain. I've been to Charles de Gaulle many times, and I'm sure many of you have probably been there as well. And one of the things about Charles de Gaulle is that there is a lot of different terrain variations. There's roads going underneath taxi bridges and so on and so forth. And when that's all done just on a flat 2D image, it looks like crap. And that's what the current Paris looks like. It just looks really bad. I'd like to go over the taxi bridges and actually be able to look down. And there's really no excuse for doing that nowadays because everyone's doing it. So it can be done. And I'm afraid that if Simwings does area, and then there won't be any point to getting a new airport. If that's the case, they might as well just update it with the new terminals and leave it at that. But if it's going to be done from scratch, then I really feel that it should be done right. So that's my opinion on that. And the good thing about Paris is that it's not surrounded by heavy autogen areas. So you can get away with doing a lot more. Same with Flightbeam Denver, and not have to worry about autogen sort of tearing everything down. So directly underneath now is OpenLC Europe, which looks very good, I might add. I think my helicopter's going to crash because I can't seem to get control of it. No! What's happening? Oh, we're just going to let it crash. I don't know. I lost control of it somehow. Anyway, control regained. Okay, and you can see as we start to come around the hill here, off to the right, now we go into the photoreal scenery. And to just give you another idea of what I'm talking about, we'll go straight ahead at 12 o'clock. You'll see there are buildings and like 2D buildings and football fields or tennis courts or whatever that is. And they're just hanging off the side of the cliff. Obviously, they had to create custom mesh in order to elevate the airport the way it's supposed to be. So I get that, but something still wasn't done right, because if you use photoreal terrain, then why are these tennis courts not appearing where they should be? Why are they on the side of a cliff like that? So something was still amiss somehow. I'm not really sure. I'd have to go on Google Earth and take a look, but something was still amiss. So anyway, as far as performance goes, frames for me seem to stick around in the 40s. I can switch over to the Airbus Extended. The frames might drop a bit though, because then we'll start pushing our luck with the what's that called? With the switch of aircraft and with the memory. The VAS usage is going to go up once I switch. And of course, because I'm using the broadcasting software, so that's going to hit it too. Let's see how bad it gets hit. Let's cross our fingers and hope we don't get an out-of-memory error. Speedbird says, one day I'll land with Aerosoft CRJ. Yeah, one day we all will have an opportunity to touch that CRJ. God knows when. And let's try the Airbus. Although I was very appreciative of Matthias with the recent previews of the CRJ that we did get. I think for something that's supposed to be released this summer, I think it's still too few and far in between. But I think if it comes this year, it may not come until fourth quarter. I'm guessing October, November, December, somewhere around there, if it comes this year at all. I honestly, personally don't see it coming before then. And your screen's probably frozen a little bit while I look for an airplane. I'm trying to think if there was a TAP Portugal livery that came with. I don't think it did. I don't think so. We'll just pull up a sleazy jet. Alright, let's cross our fingers and hope we don't run out of memory. Now, another thing that I did was I added in some of my AI traffic as well, just to give ourselves an idea of performance. Now, it should be fully low. Wait. Okay, okay. I didn't do that. It switched to the virtual cockpit mode on its own. It's a ghost plane. Okay, so now we're in the Aerosoft Airbus Extended. You can tell that I'm using Prepared V2 because you can see some of that shadow work. Let's see. So frame rates in the 20s now. And just sort of looking at those ground textures from the virtual cockpit, we'll just taxi around a little bit here. Ground textures doesn't look bad from the VC, I don't think. I don't think so. There's another sleazy jet over there. I've actually flown EasyJet a few times. I found it to be a very good airline. Anyway, still looking at those micro stutters. Of course, I think it's handling itself pretty well given the fact that we've loaded up our second aircraft already. And this is obviously a much heavier aircraft than that old Alabeo R66. So the frames have jumped quite a bit, but I still think these are the frame rates that we're getting right now is still doable. I want to say it's still doable. And we've got AI traffic out there. We've got a Lufty A320 over there. So just taxiing around the airfield a little bit just to see how those stutters are coming along. Still see the stutters a little bit. It's not super smooth. Ooh, no, it's not super smooth at all. Yeah, I can definitely see those stutters coming and going. But it doesn't look like the frames are dropping anything below 25 based on what I see. So I think as far as performance goes, I think the performance is fine. I think getting frame rates in the high 20s, low 30s, I think is okay. I think we can live with that. Let's try a quick takeoff and landing here. I don't know, you might watch me crash, I'm not really sure. This is not set up for flight, so. Now, many of you probably won't fly with the AI, so I think if I took the AI out, the frames would still probably go up quite a bit. In fact, maybe I should take out the AI. I don't know if do any of you fly with AI by any chance? And I did see Speedbird is asking how much frame per second how much performance am I losing because of the stream? I want to say off the top of my head is that the stream can suck up as much as 15 frames per second sometimes. It really depends on the aircraft and the scenery. So just doing a quick test with the Aerosoft Airbus. Let me just turn off. Let me pause and turn off the AI traffic and see how much more performance we squeeze out of here. Give me just a second. Go to traffic. Go to 0 and 0, and see if that makes a difference. Okay, so that made a huge difference. Look at the frames now. Oh, wait a minute. I thought I saw a difference at first. Looks like it's gotten worse. I take out the AI traffic, it gets worse. We're in the 30s. Now we're like we're not even hitting 30s anymore. Holy crap. How do you figure that out? You guys saw that, right? We were in the 30s before. I took away the AI and now we're in the 20s. Okay, I don't understand that. Sorry. Anyway, we'll just do a test takeoff. This aircraft is not configured for flight, so kids don't try this at home. We're just doing a performance test. Take off, turn around, and try to land anyway. How the hell do you get to the end of this runway? Jeez, you really got to zigzag around this damn thing, huh? Alright. Gotta go this way now. You gotta cross the runway like 3 doggone times, huh? Ground traffic must be a nightmare. Woo! Alright, while I try to focus on taxiing, let's take a look at some of the comments here. Let's see. Cal, do you work for EasyJet? No, like I said, I've flown EasyJet many times, Cal. I've flown EasyJet many times. It's a great airline. In fact, I got the term sleazyjet from your own flight attendants, buddy. I actually heard the sleazyjet was actually from a couple of EasyJet flight attendants that I know. So it's known as, I guess, some kind of an inside joke to call it that. But the airline is by no means sleazy. So my goodness, don't take it personally. And actually, EasyJet, I think, in my opinion, is one of the most convenient airlines in Europe. I think the two airlines I used to fly the most was Swiss, EasyJet, and BMI. BMI is long gone now. So once BMI disappeared, then I started to fly EasyJet more often. But BMI was my favorite, I have to say. They actually were my favorite. And then at some point they stopped flying to Paris, so then that was kind of a deal breaker for me too. Oops. Let's see. I'm sorry, Craig, I can't pronounce your name there, but he's saying all aircraft in the airport are AI traffic or static coming from the airport. No, those are AI traffic. There's only one static aircraft in the scenery that I noticed, and that was inside of the Air Portugal hangar in A330. Captain Gumbo says, I think I should drive to the Aerosoft headquarters and demand the CRJ in Frankfurt. You'd be wasting your time because Aerosoft isn't developing either of those products. You'd have to drive to these people's houses and demand it. Oh, Cal says, I do call it EasyJet, but yeah, we do call it that. I didn't, I just thought it was funny to hear someone in the States say it, yeah. Well, I spent a lot of time over in the UK, so I might say a lot of things that you probably wouldn't hear someone in the States say. That's okay. All right, this is taking forever. Let's taxi now. This is a long taxi. All right, frame rates return to the 30s, the low 30s though. 31, 32, somewhere around there. Oh crap, I should turn some lights on, huh? Even though I'm not even configured for flight. Should I even bother to turn lights on? All right, finally, we're at the threshold. Jeez Louise. It takes a while to get back here, doesn't it? All right. Let's brake real quick and... Oh, I have to adjust my track IR here. Something is wrong. Can I look up now? Okay, let's turn on the strobe light. The beacon should have been on already. Oh, there we go. Nav lights are on. Turn off. No, I think we need landing lights, so don't we? Let's turn those on. Although those should have been on, and the nose light should have been on during the taxi, but screw it. All right, here we go. So let's just do a quick test. A quick takeoff and landing test and see how, because obviously it's doing takeoff and approach where it's gonna make or break the scenery as a product. Is on takeoff and approach. That's where most people are going to get annoyed because if you're approaching and you hit those stutters right on short final, that's going to piss you off because that's what pisses me off. And I only have about 15 minutes left to stream, so we need to do this quickly. Ooh, some stutters trying to make that turn, isn't it? Alright, let's just bang it out and see if a bunch of alarms go off. Saying, no, you're not supposed to fly me. You're cheating. Alright, let's just do it. Let's guess here, because there's no V speeds. Let's just guess 120 knots should get us off the ground. Let's just guess 120 and then rotate. right. And rotate. Yep, I guess that was a good enough guess. Wait, I'm still on the ground. Alright, come on, let's do this. Alright, so I didn't really notice any frame rate issues, any stutters anyway. Well, some micro stutters anyway. Still micro stutters. But I don't think it was bad enough that it would, I think, annoy anyone. I'll let you guys be the judge. Let's switch to an external view. Oh, I'm losing memory! Alright. Still some micro stutters. I think, especially with panning, is where it's most notable. Oh, I need to see what my airspeed is so I don't stall. 163 knots, that's fine. Of course, now the ground is taking a little bit longer to load into full resolution, isn't it? Okay, it's Chirag. Thank you, Chirag, for that. I'll try to make sure I remember. And Chirag, if you're looking for the PC specs, they're below the screen that you're watching. Just scroll on down a little bit there. Come down on the power here and get ready to turn around and just land. Once again, if you're just tuning in, this aircraft is not configured for flight. We're just testing performance for the airport. I think this is a common airplane that everyone uses. I would use the PMDG 777, but it doesn't work in prepared V2, so there's no point in that. And the NGX is not really. I don't want to stream the NGX because it's not meant for V2. So I just don't want to. We're not supposed to use it for that, so I just don't want to stream it. But that's not to say that I don't use it in V2, because I do. I'm just not going to stream it. So I think the Aerosoft Airbus is our best bet for testing purposes. And it's just going to be 100% visual approach. What time is it? 17 after. Ooh, I better hurry up. I gotta go. So I want to just do the approach because, again, if I can land a plane at any airport, and then after I've found my turn off, and then I have to go back and think, oh, that was a good landing. If I didn't think at any point that there were any performance issues, then I know that the performance was good. But at any point during the approach or landing, if there's a pause or micro stutters, that just ruins the entire flight for me. So for me, that's one of the best indicators that I have personally, that the airport is good performance-wise. I mean, I can deal with stutters and crap while taxiing or at the gate, but when it comes to landing, that to me is the biggest deal. Alright, so we're just hand flying here. So far it looks good to me. Frame rate still 28, 24, still bouncing around quite a bit. We'll see how it looks once we get over the threshold.
Sink rate.
Yeah. Shut up.
Sink rate.
Yeah.
Sink rate. Pull
400.
Hold up, you're gonna crash, dummy. You're sinking and you're, well, anyway.
200.
Sink rate.
Yeah, I don't care.
100.
Yeah, Poppy's way off too. I still don't care. Okay,
50,
but seriously though, I need to land.
40, 30,
Come
20,
on. I'm off the
5.
runway. Center line. Ah. Oh crap, did I not put the landing gear down? What an asshole. Excuse my language. I forgot to put the gear down. Holy crap. Hey, look at that. We brought it in on our belly. How the hell do you forget to do that? He fights the urge to hit the slew button. Holy shoot. I was too busy trying to focus on the damn performance and oh wow, I've never done that before. Well, hey, you guys got a show today. You got a really good show today. I think I made EasyJet look really bad here. I made EasyJet look really bad. Entertainment today. Alright, so anyway, let's get back to the point, because I'm sure you guys will be talking about this for months. The performance. So, yes, if we were to just summarize the situation with Portugal right now, then I would summarize it by saying that it can use some optimization, especially for the stutters. I think the frame rates are fine. Besides that, we also noted that, what else did we note? Some very odd, inconsistent textures in certain aspects of the airport. Again, maybe a big deal, maybe not. We also noted the land side of the airport could use improvement. There's some areas it's inconsistent. There are some areas that have 3D cars and then some areas that don't. So there's some inconsistency in that area. Some interesting flickering. If you actually just look at the terminal from this position, you might notice there is some flickering in the textures there. Let me see if I can just do this. Or maybe it's not flickering. Maybe it's just how it's designed. I don't know. It looks like it's flickering, but maybe it's not. So maybe that's not flickering. It looks like from a distance it is, but again, not a big deal. But the biggest notable thing is, so the two big things. Number one, micro stutters. Number two, the terrain and the way the photo terrain rolls up onto the airfield. So two of the things I pointed out that could use some kind of an improvement. I guess we'll see. I'm sure there will be some feedback in the Aerosoft forum. I noted that some of you guys also pointed out that that you've pointed out some things in the Aerosoft forum as well. So a couple of things to just keep a lookout for. And let's see. According to Yun, there will be an update at the end of July. Okay, I think that's kind of far off, but no worries. Adi says call the NTSB the virtual NTSB. Yeah, that definitely was not my best landing, guys. Yeah, that was horrible. Even if I had put the gear down, that was pretty bad. But anyway, the whole point is just to show off the scenery. The only way I could do that landing properly would be to have had set it up properly, and obviously it wasn't. So anyway, there it is. At the beginning of the stream, I saw there was a lot of comments concerned about the performance. So hopefully this helps you a little bit. If you don't have it yet, again, hopefully this still helps you out a little bit. I think that overall the team did a very decent job delivering us a new version of Portugal. So to that end, I'm very happy with what they delivered. I just think that there are some areas that need improvement, and I'm sure that with an update they'll be able to accomplish that. So other than that, once again, thanks everyone for joining on. I've got to get over to my swim class. I've got to hurry up. So again, thanks a lot. Hopefully this was helpful, and if you have any other feedback or comments you want to leave, you can do it on the Air Daily X news page and put them there. Other than that, thanks again. I have to roll. You guys can feel free to keep chatting, and we will see you guys next time. The next live stream will most likely will be the Rome Fiumicino scenery. I'm trying to get permission from the developer to do a live stream, because again, the performance for me was really good, and I played with it quite a bit today, and it actually was very good. I was impressed. So